Time for MacBreak Weekly. Andy, Rene, and Alex are here. We're going to talk about the new 5K Mac, what happened with Apple Pay, and we've got some great picks of the week. It's all coming up next on MacBreak Weekly.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for MacBreak Weekly is provided by CashFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 426, recorded October 28th, 2014. Skvishy. MacBreak Weekly is brought to you by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform that makes it fast and easy to create your own professional website or online portfolio. For a free 2-week trial and 10% off, go to squarespace.com and use the offer code MacBreak. And by Personal Capital. With Personal Capital, you'll finally have your whole financial life in one place and get a clear view of everything you own. Best of all, it's free. To sign up, go to personalcapital.com/MacBreak. It's time for MacBreak Weekly, the show where we cover the latest Macintosh news, and we've got a great big panel here. Joining us all the way from Pittsburgh, PA, Mr. Alex Lindsay.
It's a panel of panels.
It's a panel of panels. It is. And, well, we'll introduce our fourth member in just a second, but also next to you is, you can just turn to your left and see him, is Rene Ritchie.
There we go.
Oh, it's a Brady Bunch moment. Of imore.com. Oh, don't kiss him. Don't kiss him. Hi, Rene. Oh. Now, if you reach a hand out, Alex, and it appears in Rene's shot, then I'll be impressed. And all the way over on the other side, poor Andy Ihnatko is just off in left field there. I apologize, Andy.
That's okay. I'm right next to the 5K display, which is the focus of everybody's attention.
It is, actually. It's
like sitting next to Paul Lind in Hollywood Squares. You know you're not the star, but the camera's going to be on you.
We've set the icons to a giant size. We're like looking at hidden Easter eggs in the icons. But so this is it. This is the 5K Retina Plus. I guess it is Retina, right?
Yeah.
Almost 200 pixels per inch, but not like 500 pixels per inch. But
216 or something?
Yeah, 14 megapixels. And to put this into perspective, Jason Snell was here yesterday and did something that I think kind of demonstrates it. Let me hide our how do I do that? I don't know. I want to hide the dock. I'm using this weird Apple Magic Mouse, which I find far from magic. All right, now I'll open this here.
Look how tiny the dock is. It's like they're so far away.
Well, we're running at a high DPI mode, so but let me show this image that Jason Snell created for us. This is this is gorgeous, and of course at home you're probably not going to be wowed by it because even if you're watching our HD video, it's only 720p. But you here in the studio audience, I think, are falling into that mountain landscape. And what is that in the lower left-hand corner? Postage stamp size. That's the original Macintosh screen from 1984 compared to our nice. In fact, we could get all three of you guys into here easily. All the monitors could be in there. It really is dramatic. Rene, you said you have one for review?
Yeah, I actually bought one. I could not contain myself. And I looked at it at the event, and it was just so very pretty, Leo.
It's stunning.
It's ridiculous. I've been using it. It arrived last Friday. I've been using it since then. And it looks like an iPhone display, like an iPad display. Yeah. It looks like living paper or living, I don't know, magazine.
It's immersive, isn't it?
Yeah, and because they laminate the panels now, there used to be like a window in between you and the pixels, so you would look like you were looking through the glass, and now it's just in the glass. It's
right.
I want to live in there.
Yeah, that's a good point. That as much as the resolution makes a difference, because it's, in fact, even when I'm on the side like this, it looks great.
Yeah, because it eliminates the gap, so there's less glare, there's less reflection inside the panel itself.
It is. They're using high DPI mode, right?
You can put it, so the Retina mode is exactly for at 2x, so twice the horizontal, twice the vertical pixels. You can put it in native mode, which means that you get every single one of those pixels if you want to. But it's just, they're doing a lot of trickery to get this done because the current Thunderbolt 2 with DisplayPort 1.2 does not support this.
Right.
So they're using their own T-Con controller, their own timing controller to get all this to work. And it's so far it's flawless for me. I got the upgraded GPU because I didn't want to take any risk of a Retina tax, and the animations are smooth. It's I haven't seen a hint of shearing, a hint of slowdown. It's just been
that's kind
really
of what happens on my 5K display. Let's say go to the Apple website here, and it's when you start scrolling that well, that's not a good place because we can't scroll it here.
Some of the 4K monitors they do, I forget what it's called, that technology that
MLS
does each
or something
MLS,
like that.
yeah. So each half is rendered separately, then combined together, and sometimes they can't keep up with themselves.
This has no. I mean, this is now. I, like you, did not want to risk a lower, a slower speed, so we did also max this one out. It's the top of the line i7,
Yeah.
the enhanced GPU and all that stuff. Let's go to the Verge. I always use the Verge as my scrolling test. Although
Even if you do like mission control or something like that,
this is amazing.
it's so much more responsive than I thought it would be.
Yeah, this is absolutely no lag. If you play a game, you're not going to be playing at this native resolution. What is the native? It's 2880 this way, right? And then it's
1550
times
5220 or so. Yeah, it's a number too big for my poor brain to calculate, Leo.
Yeah.
There's just so many pixels.
Let me just add a curiosity. I wonder what will happen if I do this.
And a lot of people asked about the refresh rate, and I've had no problem with the refresh rate at all.
It's not
There's
60?
No trailing. I believe it is 60, but they're technically combining two different pipes together, so you never know what the end result will be. But I've seen no slowdown. I've seen no shadowing. I've seen nothing.
No, gaming would be where you'd care about that. Let's. So right now, I think everybody understands this. It took me a while to grok it. We're running it at the same resolution, in effect, that a normal Macintosh would be. 2660 by 1440, but
you're using 4 pixels for every point right now.
yeah, that's what Apple calls it, points. And so, yeah, that's why the text looks so amazing. But let's go to native 1:1. No scaling at all on this thing. And, well, it's not, stuff is a little smaller, but not horrible. I could still, the menus are more legible than I thought. They must be doing something else with these.
Well, you're getting 1-to-1 pixel to point there, so there's just so many more pixels on the.
Right.
You're getting more stuff on the screen instead of higher resolution stuff.
Right.
Is there any trade-off whatsoever in the experience? outside of the money that's not on your desk?
But,
you want us to say something?
$2,500. well, that's a good point, because you, Rene, and I bought, like, ours was more like $4,000.
Yeah, plus taxes, plus yeah.
So $2,500 is the i5 base model, and it's funny. Nobody's reviewing. Apple's not even sending those out for review. They're
I think
sending
Christina
out.
Warren did on Mashable. I think
Did
her
she?
review
Good.
was the baseline. Yeah.
And what did she say? Did she notice anything?
I mean, again, it's all about the display. If you've been waiting for Retina on desktop, then this is the machine you've been waiting for. Everything else is sort of secondary.
I guess the real question, and this is one we talked about last week that Marco Arment. I'm going to go back to best for display, which is a scaled resolution. Is this better than the Mac Pro? Should you trade in your Mac Pro for this?
Yeah. Again, if you're doing massive amounts of OpenCL, if you're doing a lot of parallel computing, if you're doing anything that really can use those 4, 6, or 8 or more cores, then you want the Mac Pro. But if you want 5K, the current Mac Pro will never be able to drive an Apple 5K display.
Yeah.
Then you want the iMac.
It never makes any sense to buy the cheapest BMW. If that's your budget, buy the best Toyota.
Right.
That's just basic consumer common sense, I think.
You're future-proofing it.
Yeah, I mean, you want to, there's always going to be trade-offs in the bottom of the line. Whereas when you buy the best that someone makes, even if it doesn't do quite as much as the other one does, so long as your needs are within that gap, it's like you would much rather have something that is the finest thing this company can do.
Yeah.
And you may make decisions about, like, for instance, whether you're going to get the largest SSD that might be available or the most RAM, but a lot of these are not super upgradable. So it's the other thing to think about. I know with the Mac Mini, you definitely want to get 16 gigs when you get it. You don't want to get 8 because you're going to do something with it later.
This one is upgradable. The iMac is the only one that's still easily upgradable.
RAM upgradable is the only thing you
RAM
can do.
upgradable.
Yeah.
The point being that if you've got $2,500 or even $3,000 to spend on an iMac, maybe you'd be better off buying a conventional iMac, but putting in all the memory you can afford, putting in all the storage you can afford, given that it can't be upgraded, and whatever accessories you think you're going to need with it, rather than having the bare bones 5K iMac.
Wow, this is just gorgeous.
He said because he doesn't own one and probably will never own one for another year or two, and is patently jealous.
Well, I've seen some people
knowledge, but
say,
I wish I had.
why not wait a year and it'll be even better, right?
Yeah, and I always believe that anytime that any company, Apple included, does something that's absolutely brand new, whether it's a new case design, whether it's a new technology, it's never a good idea to jump on board to be in the first group of owners, unless you really have a compelling need to have it right now, because the second generation is always going to be better, and usually not by just we decided to change the grade of the interconnectors between two components. No, they figure out a better way to put it together. They figure out a better way to get more performance out of it. And they found some weak points that would not have been discovered if they had not already put about 500,000 of them in the hands of other people.
Yeah. I want to get some red footage, some 5K red footage, Alex.
Oh, yeah.
I think you can't really play it back. That's part of the
Or
problem.
even the 4K. I mean, you can do the 4K and you have room left over for the palettes on the side, which is really cool.
Wow.
Now, do you think that was part of the decision to go to 5K instead of 4K? That way you can have live editing of 4K and still have room alongside it to make it a floating window and put other things on the sides of it?
I think it's actually a good argument for it. I think that the viewability of 5K is, I don't know how often people are going to use it, but it's going to be a huge deal for Final Cut users, because you are able to actually work, and not just Final Cut, but anybody working with 4K footage for any reason will be able to add interface around that 4K experience. So, and it definitely seems like Apple is going to continue to push that far. Of course, the big question is now that they figured out how to make this 5K thing, whether we'll see it on monitors that stand alone for the Mac Pro.
They can't, right? Because the Mac Pro doesn't have the bandwidth to do it.
So currently, my understanding is that this is fusing two DisplayPort 1.2s together, and to do it over one cable, they'll need Thunderbolt 3, which has, I forget, the newer version of DisplayPort, and that comes in Skylake, and they haven't even shipped Broadwell yet.
Yeah.
So we're waiting till next year, I think, at the earliest.
Tom Lowe.
Although Intel keeps saying that the Broadwell delays have not affected Skylake delays, but we'll have to see.
Tom Lowe over at Timescapes, which is a beautiful 4K movie, gave me a download. Let's see if I can get it on here. It's on my other machine, but it'd be nice to put that. It's only 4K, so. One of the problems you have with this is it spoils you, right? You feel that way, Rene, now that you're a little bit spoiled?
Yeah, I'm looking at the previous generation Thunderbolt display right now, because this is on a Mac Pro. So this is what it's driving, and you can see it. It's almost like when you go back from a Mac Pro to a MacBook Air, and you can see the pixels again. And I'm not going to say it's like sandpaper on your Retina, because it's not exactly that, but it looks fuzzier. It doesn't look as. It's almost like you've seen the world, and then someone closes a window on you.
All right, here's a challenge for the Mac Brainiacs. How can I get a link on this machine over to that machine? Can I use AirDrop or maybe I download on this machine and AirDrop it over there? That's so big, though.
Do you have them logged into the same account, Leo? Because then you can just use iCloud bookmarks, iCloud tabs.
iCloud. Well, see, this isn't really logged into anything. I don't want to spend a lot of time putting that in there. Before our Before You Buy review, I'll get that downloaded onto there. So, Rene, did you get one? No, Andy, you haven't played with it yet. So your eyes are not yet spoiled.
I did go to the Apple Store to check one out. So I have laid eyes on it. I don't have one in the office yet, no.
And Alex, did you buy 50 for Pixel Core?
Just two.
Oh, just two.
Yeah, we've got. Well, here's the worst part is that we got. Well, it's a long story, but yeah, we have two of them. Could come in anyway. Yeah, so.
Have they come?
Not yet. We're actually in a process of figuring out how to manage. We had gotten two of the other ones, of course, right before they came out. So
oh no!
Sort that out. Yeah,
you're kidding me.
You know. And a whole bunch of Mac Minis, of course. It's not. I finally gave up. I just stretched it out as long as I could, and then finally gave up and bought like 8 of them. And of course now I've got 8 of the last generation.
You didn't get a new 4-core Mac Mini, so it's not right. Terrible.
Yeah, no, and so and we got a couple Mac Pros for a project recently, so I'm hoping that doesn't. If that updates as well, then I will have completely missed the boat.
Oh, Alex, has it occurred to you? Has it occurred to you to buy 4 of these things and then tile them together to make a 20K display?
Oh, it just did. I think it just did.
Awesome. Yes, yes, we should. The problem is with patching those together is the bezel. Just getting completely rid of that bezel, even a very small one. You notice.
I know, it's too bad about the bezel, actually.
I bet if you grabbed the gap with money, that would work.
Well, you could build very specialized LCDs that just go down between the two bezels,
Exactly.
and then map it together and use a special, very expensive mapping software that would allow you to. It's actually a pretty interesting process when you, as an aside, with those LEDs, the LED walls. We just saw a bunch of them at Dreamforce, and there's a whole bunch of 1x1 blocks, and then they have to have a computer that figures out how many blocks by how many blocks.
Oh, how interesting!
And they make these just massive screens, and when they first turn them on, they're all different, so they're all, all of them are different brightnesses and everything else, and then they have to go through there and sync all the little blocks up together to make them all look like one big screen. Anyway, it's not MacBreak, but it's very interesting anyway. I find it interesting.
Rene, our recommendation is wait by.
So it's one of those things where a lot of people have been waiting for Retina on the desktop, and if you're one of those people, it's like buying a Ferrari. You've been saving your pennies and you've been expecting it for so long. You're going to go out and do it. If you are not a photographer, not a videographer, not someone who really depends on high density panels, then you can wait for the second generation. You can get a non-Retina iMac and you'll be absolutely fine. Right now, it's a want to have, not a need to have.
I want to have it. I do.
I want to have it too.
I want to have it.
I'm actually curious if Alex has taken a look at the new Mac Minis yet.
We're getting a couple of them, so I will have more opinions about them. I think that the only thing I saw in the stats was that they still are not having a truly dedicated graphics processor. So for a lot of the uses that we have, we're not sure if it's going to work. So we're going to test it. So we really need a real GPU in there, not some kind of souped up Intel. And from what we looked at, we think the only way we can get those is still with the integrated Intel stuff. And so what we find is when that happens, you end up with, there's a lot of pressure being put on the CPU, and we're seeing frame rate issues specifically with video conferencing. So that's what we were hoping to use it for, but I think we may end up still using MacBook Pros and Mac Pros for a lot of that stuff.
You'd think that you wouldn't need that much of a high-end thing for video conferencing.
It's really for standard video conferencing. I don't think it's a big deal at all. When we're trying to get 720p at 30 frames a second,
really, is that hard?
It turns out that it's harder than feels like it should be, but we just noticed that we're still having frame rate issues.
8-Bit Steve in our chat room says, "Are you disappointed by the soldered-on RAM?"
Well, not overly.
You would just max it out, right?
We buy the Max every single time. Right. We would never buy an 8 meg computer.
You need to understand that Alex is not what we call an upgrader.
He just wants it to work. He doesn't want to have to go make it work.
Well, because a lot of times, we do buy everything. Almost everything is bought at almost the highest level. Usually we skimp a couple little places where we think we can get away with it, or where there's a big price jump. But a lot of times we're buying everything almost at its max all the time, and but then we keep them forever. I mean, we have computers that are 5 years old, 6 years old that are still in production because they have enough to keep going. Now they might be managing a file server or something, but we don't really get rid of them very often. We typically just run them into the ground.
Yeah, and you don't break out the spudgers and open them up and put in more RAM.
No, we don't. Yeah, because as soon as we start digging into the computer, we have confidence issues in the long-term viability. Because we're doing. Well, I mean, a lot of times for us, it's if your computer isn't working, for most people, it's just like, well, we'll take it to the shop or it'll be inconvenient. We do live events, so if the computer isn't working, it's a big deal. So most of our machines, if anything goes wrong with them, they go back to the shop or whatever because we're afraid to put them into action after they've been tooled with it all.
Yeah. Well, let's take a break. We have a lot of Mac news. I thought it'd be fun to kind of take a little look at this sucker. And
it's gorgeous.
Play with it. And unfortunately, you got to go to the Apple Store and play with it to see it. But be warned, it may set a standard that you now feel that you have.
I'm trying to actually stay out of the Apple Store because I don't even want to walk by.
I think so.
I think I'd have to go like this until I actually have one. I just have to kind of walk by.
Rub off on you.
Oh, it's a tangent, Leo. But I've been reviewing the the iPad Air 2, and I ran the GFX bench test, the Manhattan test, which tests OpenGL ES3 on it. And on the previous generation, the A7 machines, I was getting 9 frames per second and a lot of choppiness. I was getting 23.9 frames frames per second, totally smooth video on the new iPads. It's just amazing what those chips are doing now.
Those, everybody is saying, all the benchmarks we're starting to see now are really a lot faster.
Triple core CPU, amazing GPU,
and more RAM, double the RAM, 2 gigs.
double the RAM.
2 gigs of RAM.
I would almost call it a suspiciously powerful upgrade, as though they are. No, I'm serious. As though they know something that they're going to be doing in a few months that's going to require something that's not just a little faster, but is just an entire generation faster. I think that this is Apple's indication that we're going to give you side-by-side multitasking sometime before the life cycle of this device is over.
Interesting.
Because iOS is really low overhead, which is how they've gotten away with 1 gigabyte of RAM for so long. So if they're doubling the RAM there's going to be something that needs it that's more than just your basic
And
iOS.
didn't we see code that implied that they would have some sort of multitasking feature that they just didn't deliver it in 8?
Yeah, Steve Stratton-Smith tweeted it. He found it in the firmware bundle. It had, I think, 1/3, 1/2, and 2/3 size.
That's how we know. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's take a break. When we come back, Apple's 2014 annual report. I'd like you guys to give me the deep dive and the lowdown in the 30,000-foot version. Can you work on that? Big drop in music sales for iTunes, confirmed now by Apple. And Tim Cook explains why the classic is dead. Pretty good reason, as it turns out. But first, a word from our friends at Squarespace. Oh, that is the place to make your next website both the best hosting and the best content management system combined together, tightly integrated, gives them capabilities that no other web host can offer you. First of all, Squarespace starts with these incredible templates. Squarespace 7 templates just came out. They're all mobile responsive. Nice thing about having them do the software and the hosting is they can spend, and it's their business, so they do all the time keeping up with web standards and, let's face it, fashions. And so that your site, you don't want your site to look like it came from 1972. Your site will always look modern and up to date. If you're a photographer, the full bleed templates on Squarespace are stunning. Just gorgeous. Actually, for anybody, that's kind of the new thing now, is get lots of beautiful images. Pick one of the 25 templates. Actually, you can do this for free right now. Go to squarespace.com, click the Get Started button. You'll be able to play with all 25 templates. You can even, and you don't need to give them a credit card to do this, import your content in from your existing site. They have API support for most of the major blog platforms. So you'll see, within minutes, exactly what your site would look like on Squarespace, how responsive it'd be. Ask your colleagues, your clients to try it out. They've got lots of great tools, too. Their iPad apps, for instance, the Portfolio app for photographers, pulls the images from your Squarespace site, which is already a portfolio, but arranges it so it's perfect for displaying to clients and saying, the bride and the groom, I guess the groom counts too. Well, here are the pictures from the wedding. Pick the ones you like, that kind of thing. Their metric app lets you keep track of site stats like page views, unique visitors, social media followers. They have a logo designer on their website. If you're, a small company it just gets better and better. And this is the amazing thing. I tell you about all this stuff, e-commerce in every template, so you can have a school fund drive, even at the lowest level, nonprofits can take donations, cash, wedding registries. The big time e-commerce has lots of great features, package calculation, shipping tools, merchant accounts, all the stuff you need. And all of this starts at $8 a month. And that includes a free domain name when you sign up for a year, $8 a month. Code behind the scenes is gorgeous too. And should you need help, they have, they've never outsourced it. The help comes from their own employees in their offices in New York City. 24/7, they've got live chat and email support. You can support yourself too, or learn, because they have a beautiful customer help portal with articles and workshops, video workshops, and a whole lot more. Squarespace.com, the best hosting, the best software to make the best site for you. Try it free for 2 weeks. You don't need a credit card. Just click the Get Started button. If you should decide you want to buy, all I ask, use our offer code MacBreak to save 10% off your new account. Then they'll know, another great customer. We've sent a lot of people to Squarespace. Use the offer code MacBreak for 10% off. Leo Laporte, sitting here with our good buddies, the lovely and talented Andy Ihnatko from the Chicago Sun-Times, with his R2-D2, his Cube. You're starting to pile stuff on the Cube. Is that going to be a tower?
Yeah. Well, actually, given it's every time that I have a need for like an old computer to like reference or photograph. I'll work at it here on this thing when I show it off, and then I just get it out of the way here.
With the pile.
And I'm getting sort of a Jenga effect.
I like it. Yeah.
I think I'm starting to like. We'll see how long it goes before. If I come back one week and you see there's nothing piled on there, you'll know what happened.
I want you to drill a hole through the middle of it all and put the lamp through in there. Just
you'll know that I'm in the market for a TRS-80 Model 100, for an eMate, for a ThinkPad, and for a Newton MessagePad 2100.
Right. Also here, Rene, Ritchie from imore.com. Great to have you. And some great articles this week in iMore, which I will be referring to soon.
Thank you.
And from Pittsburgh, PA, and the Pixel Core, it's Mr. Alex.
You can see I've really gone with the less is more kind of background.
Well, it's interesting. It's,
I just moved in. I'm still working on it. There's going to be nice pictures of Pittsburgh soon.
It's a little drywall heavy.
If it was, yeah, I'm working on it. I got the bandwidth worked out, so that's the first part, and then I kind of got the camera thing worked out, and a little bit of lighting.
You know what actually would help a lot there is maybe 4 or 5 5K iMacs.
Oh, I could just put them all behind me. You wouldn't even see the seam right through here. I just put one on each side.
Anything you want.
Well, if you got a lot of space, I want to encourage you to like do like the Merv Griffin show set in like 1976. If you can have a permanent set like shag carpeting in the back wall.
Oh, that'd be nice.
And just the words Alex, 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 and light bulbs behind you.
And that's somewhere you'd want to live. You really would.
It's awesome. Yeah. I got to work on that. Yeah. Shag. I'm really caught in the shag carpeting. That'd be good on the walls.
Nice.
So the chat room is telling me that Jaws is at Recode right now, Greg Joswiak, and says that the problem with 8.0.1 was not the code, but the way it was distributed.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, we talked about that, I think, right after it happened. It was the Delta update for the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus that caused the problem. The actual binary itself was fine, but when the Delta file went out, that's what caused,
So if you had downloaded the full version and installed it, no problem.
Yeah, absolutely. It was just something in the process that generated the bit differential file that went wonky.
And that would that actually is it's good to know. It explains how this could happen without anybody knowing it was going to happen.
Yeah, because they were all
they were testing the full
Apple
install.
internally. They run they have a whole different way of installing iOS internally, and then people who are testing the full binary, it's different, and it should never have happened. Absolutely, should never have happened.
Next time they'll test it all.
Yeah.
They'll test the Delta. Delta's tough. I've always said it's difficult. It's really difficult to test all the possible combinations out there, and Delta made it just even more complicated.
And it sounds like they know what's happened. They've taken steps to make sure that won't happen again.
Today, Apple filed its. We had the quarterly results last week, the fourth quarter, but now the official fiscal year 2014 10K is out. That's their annual report. Some interesting details. A lot more employees, 12,300 new employees. To bring the total at 92,600 full-time employees at Apple. They'll cross 100,000 probably this year, right?
Yeah. Although that includes retail, which is also significant.
Yeah, retail grew 3,400 of that total. Yeah, in fact, retail they didn't break out the retail at the quarterly call, but they did break it out in their for the annual report. The store count increased 21. Average revenue per store up slightly to $50.6 million per store.
Nice neighborhood.
Nice name. Well, that means you add 21 stores, you're adding $1 billion. Or what is it? I don't know. I can't do the math. $100 million. No, $1 billion. Jeez Louise to the revenue. Apple's R&D is up, and that's good because a lot of analysts said, Apple's not spending a typical percentage of its revenue or income or profit on R&D. $4.5 billion last year, $6 billion this year. So that should be encouraging. It's the highest level relative to revenue since 2007, and of course, you know what happened in 2007. That was the year of the iPhone. So that's good, right? I mean, we want to see them investing in R&D and new stuff. not resting on their laurels.
I mean, focus. I mean, I forget the graph that came out. I mean, it was Horst Dedje who posted it, where it showed Nokia and Microsoft and a lot of other companies' R&D budgets compared to Apple. And Apple was still, it wasn't that they weren't doing R&D; it's that they were focusing on. They said no to a lot of products much earlier on the cycle than their competitors did, which saved them a lot of money.
It was a Simco that was the one who brought that up and said this is worrisome. Well, Horace, you need not worry. Real estate holdings increased. They now lease 19.7 million square feet of building space. And they're building a spaceship. So most of that building space in the U.S., they're expanding their office space and customer support call center, which is in Austin, Texas. And, of course, the new campus, which will have 3.6 million square feet. Capital expenditures will be going up to $13 billion in 2015, 11 in 2014, billion with a B. 600 million of that up towards retail. Anything else? iTunes. Oh, well, and this is the bad news. We had suspected that there was a drop in iTunes revenue. Actually, the iTunes store itself, and this is not just music, remember, this is apps, generated a total of $10.2 billion in net sales, up from $9.3 last year. But they did acknowledge that that was mostly from app sales and digital sales in decline. In fact, partly offset the growth in app sales. Third-party estimates of as much as 13% decline this year alone in iTunes music sales. And iTunes, we should point out, is the biggest retailer of music. Right? So if iTunes is losing...
Of single sales, yeah, not of streaming or...
Right. Well, and that's what it's happening, right? Spotify, RDO, Beats, they're taking... And now the Beats acquisition makes a little more sense because Apple has these metrics, they know what's happening. And they say, crud. Or a word
I think it's
like
becoming
that.
clearer and clearer that they didn't buy them for the headphones.
No, they did not. Although, what are they going to do with Beats? So some say they'll drop the Beats label and the name and incorporate it into iTunes, and that would be very Apple-y. But golly, if you buy Beats, isn't it the name?
The headphones, the name is important. I don't know if the name is important in the streaming music.
Yeah, the streaming, I don't think that ever really took off. So they have all the agreements in place, and I'm assuming that they can change the name and keep those agreements. I think that's what Apple really, Apple was not getting the agreements that they wanted. Yeah, right. So if they have those agreements in place and they're able to move it, while Beats might not have been successful, obviously Apple has a lot of wherewithal as far as pushing them forward from that perspective. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there for them.
I actually don't know if they mentioned Beats in there.
It's accretive, Leo. It's accretive.
10K.
But I think that the idea of...
Is that a person from Crete?
No, I think Tim Cook said that their deal was accretive. They actually made money when they bought the deal, when they bought Beats.
In July 2014, the big company acquired Beats Music. I'm reading from the 10K, which offers a subscription music service. And that's all they say. Let me see if they mention it again. Beats headphone speakers and audio software. Company issued 5.1. Oh, this is interesting. In connection with its acquisitions of Beats, the company issued 5.1 million shares of common stock to certain former equity holders of Beats. So I thought it was a cash deal, but apparently there was some stock involved. Company completed Beats and goodwill and other under goodwill and other intangible assets. Beats Music. There you go. So one of the things that's coming down the pike that may not make Beats as attractive as it was, first of all, Apple and others, Spotify, I think, is doing this, and with the family plans, $5 a month now is going to be the new benchmark, right, for family plans. That's what Spotify is going to charge, not 10. So that cuts in half the revenue. The other thing that's coming down the pike is there are two companies now that are promising to offer audiophile quality streaming. I don't know how important that'll be. There's a big one internationally is Deezer. We don't have that in the States. Do you have that in Canada?
No, but they just bought somebody.
They just bought Stitcher.
That's right.
Which is a podcast streaming outfit. In fact, we're very big on Stitcher. So I think that's probably good for us because it means if Deezer does take off, that you'll be listening to music but you'll also be listening to text, to audio, speech. What are we? We're speech. What is it we do? Podcasts in your stream. Deezer Elite is the one, and it's $15 a month. Eventually, it'll be $20. But it's streaming FLAC 1644 CD quality FLAC. And then there's another one that just announced with a name I'd never heard of that's going to do also CD quality streaming. The problem with CD quality streaming is those files are at least 4 times bigger than the MP3s or AAC files you've been getting, which means it will take 4 times longer to buffer. So don't expect the music to start playing right away. I think a tricky business to want to be in right now. The music
especially with so many
business.
other people getting into it right now. It was a lot better when there were really only just Betamax and VHS. Now that you conceivably this time next year there could be 4 major players in the space,
right? And
you really have to choose. And they're going to become more competitive about which catalogs that they get. And they're going to try to leverage one against the other. It could be a big mess for users in about a year from now.
Well, and it's a terrible thing for, as we said before, for musicians, right? Because
absolutely.
I think that it's a terrible. I think it's a terrible thing as we look at the current number of people using it. I mean, if it really becomes totally ubiquitous, it's unclear as to whether it would be as terrible for the users. And there'd be a lot more money. The pot would be a lot bigger for them to share. But I think that either way, I mean, I think that most of the artists that have really looked at the future are focusing on all the other things to make money from, live performances and so on and so forth. So
here's another thing you can't get in Canada. It's called Tidal. And it, sorry.
Many things.
There's so many things. Can you get Teslas, though? You can get Teslas, right?
Yeah, they just started.
Yeah. So that's good. Tidal launched in the US and UK. It is a CD lossless. It's also FLAC or ALAC Apple lossless. It's 44 kilohertz, 16-bit. It's $20 a month as well. So there's a couple of benchmarks. There's the family plans, which for Beats was $3 a month when AT&T was offering, which they aren't anymore. $5 for the family plan for Spotify, and then $20 if you want a lossless. I think if you care enough about audio to be a CD buyer, then this makes sense. It's 2 CDs. Or less.
It is. I think the big question is how many people are out there that are interested in that. I think that because you have to really look at, it may sound like a really good thing, but you got to make sure that your headphones are good enough or your speakers are good enough to really be able to tell the difference. And I think that 99% at this point, there was a lot of us that were audiophiles back in the day, but I think at this point, 99.9% of the people that are, consuming this would have a hard time hearing the difference.
Tim Cook tells Recode why the iPod Classic was killed. And he says, what were the words he said? It was something like,
they can't get the parts anywhere on the planet anymore.
Yeah, but he said, I'm not a hatchet man. I don't go around saying, what can we kill today? He just couldn't get the parts.
That little miracle drive that...
Is it that little drive? That was like the IBM drive, right? The little spinning...
Yeah,
Toshiba bought it or made it. Yeah, 160 gigs, right?
It was a great. I still have one running.
I bought one last year for my car because I knew that eventually they'd kill it.
And I got one of those little skins for it, and it looks really cool. And
I just leave it in the glove compartment.
Yeah, my wife has it hooked up to some kind of playback thing that she listens to. So that's.
I didn't realize. Oh wait a minute! No, this is the 13th. It says short of its 13th birthday. It's the 13th anniversary of the iPod itself, not the classic. The original iPod.
Oh, the classic is probably the closest to the traditional iPod that they had left.
Yeah.
I still miss the mechanical wheel. I wish I lost mine with the mechanical wheel.
I have one, Alex. Next time you come here, I'll give you the original 1,000 songs in your pocket. But it takes FireWire to charge it.
I know.
Yep.
There's something about feeling that.
Oh, you got one. You got one. Andy has one.
So here you go. See, Mr. Fancy Pants 5K display owner, you don't have this little marvel, do you? Matter of fact, I'm gonna put it on the Jenga pile right now.
Oh, now that's a challenge.
Don't let it drop.
There you go.
Take a computer from the bottom and you put it on top.
Because if that falls down, I got another one right here.
What? What the hell are you doing? What you up to?
I'm going through old boxes. I'm trying to like finally close down like storage units that I've had for a couple of years to just get rid of things, and realize that, well, perhaps if I actually spent a couple of days going through this, I wouldn't be spending $43 a month to keep. I use one of my storage units kind of like the Mac trash can, where I can throw something away but still pull it out later on.
Right.
I think it's time for me to empty trash and reclaim that $42.
Time to visit Gazelle.
Exactly.
And he's a millionaire now.
Yeah,
exactly.
I'm rich.
I'm a millionaire in like really, really old timey phones.
What the hell? Oh my! What do you just have that all to hand? What do you got, a box there or stuff?
Yeah, well, yeah, I literally do like have like a laundry hamper that I take to the storage unit of things that are worth cool enough that I really want to like not throw them away, and the things I do want to throw away will stay there. And at some point, I will call some nice men with a truck to say, "Yeah, unit number 117. Here are the keys. You take whatever you want. Throw out the rest. Here's a small check."
You don't want to leave it for your kids, Andy. I'm just saying.
I don't want. If I ever have kids, I don't want them to. I don't ever want them to say, I'm going to fight much harder over who has to clean out dad's storage units than we did after who has to take care of dad when he becomes too sick to take care of himself.
Right. Curse. You don't want your offspring cursing your name upon your death.
Yeah, I mean, you find out who your friends are. I spent like 10 years like helping friends and family members move. Yeah. And then when I had to move, it was like, oh, good luck. Let me buy a pizza for that. Like, oh.
Have fun, Andy. Pizza doesn't make it after 30, Andy. I got to tell you, you got to pay in dollars.
Jerks. It's like points programs on an airline. You have to spend them early or else you lose them. I didn't know that. Yeah. I didn't read the fine print when I helped someone carry a marble coffee table up a flight of stairs.
Oh, we got one of them. Hey, I've been seeing stories, and maybe somebody can confirm this, that there actually is an NFC chip in the new iPads, in the Airs. Air 2.
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, there is an NFC chip, but as far as we understand, it's only used for the secure element for the credit card transactions, and there's no NFC antenna, which means that NFC is not going anywhere anytime soon.
So it was some sort of unit that included the NFC and the secure element that they put in the iPhone. Yeah. But if you don't put an antenna on it, what good is it, right?
Yeah, it's like there's been an FM radio as part of the chipset for a long time. They just never used it.
I see. All right.
But it would be pretty bulky. You have to admit, tapping an iPad would be really much bulkier than like.
But it would give you an opportunity to show off your brand new gold iPad Air 2.
I got a crowd actually today when I used I went to Walgreens and. Walgreens, by the way. I went to Walgreens or CVS.
Not CVS, right. You drove past.
Not right.
I drove past the CVS, a block and a half, 2 blocks to Walgreens because I could use my Apple Pay. And that was actually the first time I think they'd seen it used. And so it was like a little crowd.
The crowd?
They were like, okay, go ahead and do it.
Fell on the crowd.
Tapped it.
As he pulled out his iPhone.
Yes. And then it asked me for my PIN. I was like, oh, okay.
Oh, you had to have a PIN? You didn't have the...
So if you connect it, it turns out that if you connect, and I have to figure out, I mean, if you connect an ATM card, you tap it on there, and then it asks you for your PIN.
Oh, it's not nearly as impressive.
Well, you can hit credit. You just hit credit, and then it goes away. It's quick. It's quick, and if I hooked it to a regular credit card, I'm sure there's some way I could define it as well. And
yeah, you can set your default.
I set up my Apple Wallet, but I still haven't used it.
No, it was great. It was like you expect it to be more complicated, and then you click on it, and you're like, "Oh, okay, well, that's good."
Mr.
Not just that, but all NFC. I wrote a second piece about NFC yesterday. I just went to a Panera to do it, just because there's free refills, and I always get a table. And I wrapped up my business at around 5:30. I was like, okay, it's time for dinner. I should probably go home and heat up a can of. Well, actually, wouldn't it be fun to pay with NFC again? I think I'll have dinner here again. Yay!
So it does sell stuff.
So it got an extra $5.50 out of me for a bowl of French onion soup. Very tasty bowl of French onion soup there, Panera.
It's like in-app purchase. It's just so easy. Or like one click.
Right.
It's almost like
it's like one click.
Spending.
It is.
Well, and I think that one of the things to remember is that not only is it easy. I mean that's kind of but it also shortens lines. I mean, so if you think of more and more people using it in places like San Francisco, where you're really probably going to see a big impact on it, is when you see those long lines in CVS or Rite Aid that aren't using it, you can remember that your line probably might eventually become shorter in places like Walgreens because people can just sit there and tap it quickly rather than.
It'll be great.
it's also more accessible. Steve Aquino did a great article about how it's so hard for someone with visual impairments or physical impairments to use a credit card, to swipe it, to enter a PIN number. But with Apple Pay, they just tap it and use the Touch ID. And now that's been taken away from them. They can no longer, they had a brief couple days they could use those stores, and now it's gone.
Well, that's an interesting, that's a real, I mean, you could maybe sue under the NDA and say, look, you've reduced accessibility here.
Well, and what
ADA,
Walgreens should really think about is just to push the thing is they should build Apple Pay lines, to make sure to underline it.
Look how empty that Apple Pay line is.
Yeah, exactly. It's because it's like TSA free. It's not just that there's less people, but it's that it's so much faster. It keeps the line through it. So.
Yeah. Not just that, but I think that Apple and Google should team together to co-promote NFC payments, because they've got a window of several months before currency becomes an actual real thing, to demonstrate to everybody, here's how easy our system works, and here's how much you can trust us with your information, and here's the limits of liability. And so that have all those 3 points: how easy is this to use, how reliable is it, and how safe and secure is the information, when that's on everybody's mind when they think of paying for something with a phone. And so the first time someone asks, oh, so there's no way that this consortium of retailers can get access to information that's on my phone, it's possible. It's in the you agree to that. I agree to what? You agree to all of that, and us sharing information with other retailers and tracking your GPS. It's fine. It's going to work fine.
Your health information, your social security number, your bank number.
Is it not just the last 4 digits? Somebody said it's the whole
currency. We did. Nick Arnott, our security editor, did a great article on this. But if you look in the agreement, they've got provisions for your health information. They want your serial number, your bank information. They want a lot of your personal data. And you go to their website, it's appalling because it says you are secured with a 4-digit PIN code and a QR code. And we don't store our information on a device where it's insecure. We store it on our cloud where it's absolutely secure.
Oh yeah,
where anybody can get at it. Yeah.
And he spent about 2 minutes looking at, well, maybe not. He did it live on Twitter, which was amazing. He spent about 30 minutes looking at it, and the amount of unprotected information coming off that device, that app, the currency app, was absolutely appalling.
So let me give you the background on this story, because I think some people are going, what's going on here? Of course, Apple, I think you all know, Apple announced Apple Pay and released it a week ago with the 8.1 update, and you can use it and your iPhone 6 Plus, actually 5S, right? No, because you have to have NFC.
6 and 6 Plus.
6 and 6 Plus. To pay at tap and pay terminals in many stores. CVS and Rite Aid are 2 drugstores in the United States that had this tap and pay, worked with Apple Pay, even though it didn't advertise it. It worked because it's a standard, as well as Google Wallet. And sometime last week, turned it off entirely. They said, well, we're not going to do it anymore. Because we're contractually obligated to support currency, which is a part of something called MCX. Turns out this MCX was created by Walmart and has a couple of dozen companies, big ones too, names you would know as signatories. And the idea of this is that Walmart and these other companies did not want to give a piece of the action to the credit card companies. That was what it was really about originally. We don't want to give MasterCard and Visa a few percent. So it doesn't take credit cards. It takes debit cards or prepaid cards from the store. It doesn't work very well. You can download it now on iOS. In order to use it, and it's not even out yet. It won't be out till next year. When it's out at Rite Aid and CVS and these other stores, you'll have to have the app on your. Is it one app currency? It is. It's not per store.
One app for iOS, one app for Android. So
you'll
exactly.
Let me finish the description. So you'll launch currency on your phone. The terminal will not. There's no tapping. The terminal will show a QR code, which you then have to scan with your phone. And then, do you enter a PIN at that point? Did Nick explain how that? I don't know what the.
It's invitation only right now, so it's hard to tell exactly how it's going to work.
But somehow, probably what will happen is the phone has to be online. It will then signal via the internet to
be online,
the currency servers. Okay, here's a transaction. This is the transaction ID I got from the terminal. I approve it, and it'll go through. But as you point out, in that process, no credit cards were used, but all of your information was handed over. It's pretty much a loyalty card system, right?
And they're pulling your device ID. They're inserting a unique identifier that persists over multiple installs. They're trying to get your MAC address. I mean, it's just the C stands for creepy, as far as I can tell in currency.
It's a non-starter, I think, for anybody who's paying attention. And
I think that Apple has a real opportunity to make sure that people are paying attention. I think that both Apple and Google, exactly what Andy was underlining, have the opportunity to really talk about who are you. And I think Apple has a better case probably than Google in a lot of ways. That, you know, we're not in the business of selling your information. Like we're in the business of selling you hardware. We're here to make a service that, you know, obviously makes it as easy as possible for you to do what you want to do.
Alex, I don't think that's true. Walmart says that they have the consumer's interests, best interests in mind.
Of course.
That's what they say. It says it right here.
I think that there's the one thing that Apple, I think, does, you know, have to think about, and I think that there's an opportunity there, is to have their partners eventually be able to say, if I'm a consumer and I want to, if I choose to add a loyalty program on top of my Apple Pay for Starbucks or for whatever, so that I get my free whatever every 10 whatever. If I choose to add that piece by piece, I think that could make a lot of sense, and that could dull a lot of the arguments on these cases. I mean, their argument is they don't want to give up control. They want to, they definitely don't want Apple to have control of that process. So I think that's not going to help them, but I think that there are opportunities for retailers to. There are valid opportunities that you can't do right now with Apple Pay that they're talking about, which is being able to extend, loyalty benefits, and that a lot of companies, and a lot of people like to take advantage of. And so I think that's not in Apple Pay, but it definitely could be added. Yeah.
Here's what Walmart's statement is. They sent a statement to Business Insider. I love this. There are certainly a lot of compelling technologies being developed, which is great for the mobile commerce industry as a whole. Ultimately, what matters is that consumers have a payment option that is widely accepted, secure, and developed with their best interests in mind. MCX, that's the merchants exchange that Walmart created using currency. MCX member merchants already collectively serve a majority of Americans every day. MCX's members believe merchants are in the best position to provide a mobile solution because of their deep insights into their customers' shopping and buying experiences. Yeah, we know more about you than Apple does, so use our system.
Their words are not matching their actions. And to your earlier point, Leo, they didn't just disable Apple Pay or Google Wallet. They turned off NFC. It's like going to Starbucks and them not wanting you to buy Starbucks cards online, so turning off Wi-Fi. It's just it's an entire technology they've banned. And
maybe this was a more revealing statement from former Walmart CEO Lee Scott when he was asked by an analyst why MCX could succeed. The former Walmart CEO said, "I don't know that it will, and I don't care as long as Visa suffers."
Yeah.
So, okay, I could tell you right now, it's not going to succeed. I think nobody wants this.
Well, yeah, and I think for any of these, if they really think that they have a superior product that their consumers would prefer, just let them both play and let's see how it turns out. But the bottom line is that people aren't going to want to give them that information. A lot of them aren't, especially definitely iPhone users are probably going to be more likely to be disinterested in that process.
It is a little scary if you go to the MCX site, mcx.com. The retailers, the companies that are involved in this it's Shell, it's Walmart, it's Best Buy, it's Kmart. Kmart, Kohl's, Lowe's, Sears. It is some of the biggest retailers. Shell, Southwest Airlines.
Is that as they signed on, there was the rumor that I've heard is that there's a 3-year. There was a 3-year exclusivity, and some of them may have signed on within the last year. So the ones that have, and there's some kind of
boy, are they sorry?
It hasn't even
in the
launched
last
yet,
year, though, in the first year, there seems to be some kind of, there's a rumor that there's a clause that lets them get out of it in the first year. So for the ones that just signed in, they may choose to peel out. For the ones that signed in a ways back, they may be having theirs come up in the next year or
do you think consumers are savvy? And I mean, look, everybody on this panel and everybody who probably watches this show or listens to it is savvy enough to know the difference. But do you think the average Joe going into CVS?
I think the average Joe going to CVS isn't going to use this anyway. I mean,
right? They're just cash or credit card.
ATM card.
Those aren't going away.
Yeah, I think it was interesting there, Leo. Target is on the list there for currency, but they're actually using Apple Pay on the online app. So where they're not prohibited by doing it for their contract, they are deploying Apple Pay. Yeah.
I think this is probably a case of these guys misjudging the market. It has been, it's been a couple of years. Nobody knew Apple Pay was going to happen.
Yeah.
What a dumb deal to sign, though.
But also, yeah, I mean, as I wrote in a column this morning, it's like they've forgotten that almost every time an industry has just tried to burn down and remake a consumer experience in a shape that was most convenient for retailers, it's always failed. I had to think about Sony's first cut at selling digital music, where they built this horrendous format and this horrendous app that if you bought a Sony digital music player and you installed the software to make it work, the first thing it would do is scan your entire hard drive and look for music files, convert them all into a locked up DRM format, even stuff you'd recorded yourself, even stuff you'd ripped yourself. It would not let you have a copy working on your computer and on the mobile device until you signed it in and signed it out. You couldn't share it with anybody. If the app screwed up, that was your fault. You couldn't get access to anything. And Sony figured that, well, what are you going to do? You're going to have to buy another copy of this if you want a copy of this for your car. And people responded by saying, actually, we could just steal music using these tools that are very easy to use. And there's so many other cases exactly like that. Every time they say this is an opportunity for us to build a new payment system so that it's completely in our favor and the customers never do anything that is inconvenient for us, the retailer, they will be right in our hands. We will get as much information about the consumer experience as possible and always make sure every moment that phone is in their pockets and turned on, it's an opportunity for us to sell. And what happens is that you create a retail experience that is bad, and people don't use it. So that's why this is such a great opportunity for Google and Apple to say, all you do is you tap the phone and it works, and you will not if your car breaks down and you use this system to pay for a tow, you will not get an offer to buy new shoes and a hotel room someplace else. It will not be sharing your information with other people, and you will not be telling, hey, I know so you know 13 other people who've eaten at Applebee's in the past 3 weeks, so I'm going to add something to your calendar to tell you that maybe you should meet at Applebee's next time. We'll give you a 10%
Horrible. But I think the people who have NFC and have set wallets up are pretty sophisticated. They're not your average.
But I'm saying that but one of the things is that generations are getting older, and the people who are most apt to be attracted to the system and be most savvy about it are the people who are now getting real jobs with six-figure incomes, and the people who would never, like as Alex says, who would not be inclined to use a phone to pay for anything to begin with. They don't matter in terms of this transaction, but all the people that are realizing that it's much easier and much more secure to pay for something with a phone are going to gravitate towards the ones that are the easiest to use.
Well, yeah, and I think that with a lot of these folks, you have to look at a commoditized market. I mean, drugstore. I used to, up until recently, very recently, I used to just search for drugstore. Now I search for Walgreens just because it makes me angry that they won't let me do it.
Well, there is going to be a little bit of a backlash,
But the thing is that I don't. The bottom line is that my shaving cream is at all of those locations at roughly the same price. So if I'm gonna start to choose, and you look at, like, for instance, Arco is a good example of a gas station that I won't go to, not because they have worse or better gas, but because the purchasing process is so painful at an Arco station, I won't go. And this has nothing to do with NFC. But if Chevron, which I think Chevron is one of the ones that's supporting Apple Pay, I believe. But I'm going to start aiming at those ones because
it's a good point. I would not go to Shell. I would go to Chevron. I mean, as long as it's relatively convenient to go to either.
So the one thing
if I'm running out of gas,
it's not a protest either.
Yeah,
if I'm running out of gas.
I can't tell you how many places where there's a Walgreens right across the street from a CVS, where there's a Burger King right across the street from McDonald's, and gas stations tend to congregate near each other. I'm not waving the red flag of revolution saying I'm striking a blow for consumer freedom. It's like, if I actually drive another 20 yards down the road, I can have a much more easy, an experience I'm going to be much more comfortable with. I may as well drive another 20 yards.
I do that today because in Canada, all our credit cards and Interact bank cards have NFC already. I go to the places that I know take NFC, and that's what horrified me about them turning off NFC, because I don't need Apple Pay. I could go to any of those locations and pay with my credit card today, and now I can no longer do that. They've taken functionality and ease of payment away from me. They've made the buying process worse for me as a consumer. And their contract says that they can't use other mobile apps. My credit card is not another mobile app, and they've turned that off as well. And that, I think, is
really
under.
You can't even swipe and sign?
Well, I can swipe and sign, but my credit card is set up to do NFC transactions, and now I have to go and swipe and sign like a monster.
Right. Like an American, for crying out loud.
But I mean, they are taking away a secure process for me that is easier, more efficient, that is better in almost every single way, just to stop one small app transaction that they agreed to, which I think makes it more egregious.
Well, get ready, because Apple Pay is looks like may go to China as well. Tim Cook went to China, the CEO of Apple. We thought it was originally because the Great Firewall of China was intercepting iCloud logins and apparently storing those credentials for, later use. But and then surprisingly, Tim Cook showed up in China the next day, meeting with Vice Premier Ma Kai. But they had not only talked about telecommunications, it seems like they talked a lot about Apple's future in China. Remember, Andy, you were here when we were watching the iPad event, and Tim Cook spent at least 5 minutes in front of a giant China flag. There's clearly an important business partner for China. Apparently, they're in talks with Alibaba, which is the big, the Amazon of China. They have a payment system called Alipay in China, and they're apparently in talks with Apple to bring Apple Pay to China through Alipay. There's Jack Ma, the CEO of Alibaba. He says, and this was at, I think, the Recode mobile conference, he's very interested in a possible Apple partnership. He's no fool. Smart guy. So Apple, momentum, the big mo is in Apple's favor.
Well, you sign up 1 million people in 72 hours.
That's
and,
right. Well, that's what they said, right? 1 million credit cards in the first 3 days.
And even without Walmart and Target, they have 60%, I think, of retailers covered just using existing NFC implementations because it's a standard.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I think that especially, for the large retailers like Walmart, they can make a lot of decisions and they can push to their own user base. But if you're a smaller retailer, if you're a hotel, if you're other things, there's a lot of advantage for you to pick the one. Obviously, currency is really aimed at the big retailers, but there's a lot of smaller businesses that would really benefit from saying, hey, have the little sign outside that says we take Apple Pay. I think is going to be advantageous to a lot of small retailers as well.
I just parenthetically, I was able to download Timescapes. This is not a 4K. This is 1660, which is kind of a weird format, but it was designed for the MacBook Retina. And dang, that looks good. It's very immersive on the 5K display. Yeah. I can only imagine what the 4K would look like. It's just
the Retina MacBook Pro isn't pixel double. Like they couldn't get to pixel double on it, so it's pixel doubled internally and then scaled down to fit the display.
Oh, interesting.
This one is actually pixel double.
So that we should emphasize that high DPI, that whole thing, the way it works is it will make on text, it'll use 4 pixels per point. But whenever you're in a photo or a movie that actually has that kind of resolution, it'll display natively 1:1.
Yeah.
I don't know what this is doing because it's filling the screen. So I don't know what QuickTime is doing with this. Must be scaling it.
Yeah.
Oh, look at all those blown pixels. That's disappointing.
What?
Are you joking? I'm trying to make you feel bad about.
Oh, that's stars, man. That's stars. It's full of stars.
Sorry, I watched this on a crappy display.
It's better for you. I'm telling you.
Like
you
a damn American. Like an American.
Like an American. You don't want to know how good this is. You don't want to.
Not because it's easy, but because it's hard.
More Tim Cook revelations. They asked about, I guess Tim was at Wall Street Journal's D conference. It's very confusing now. The D is now not the D conference. It's RECO. Anyway.
Walt and Wall Street Journal don't live in the same house anymore, Leo.
Not anymore. Walt has moved out. He's spread his wings and flown. Tim asked about the Apple Watch. Said, well, it's hard to say how much battery life it's going to get because everybody uses it differently. He's still hedging his bets a little bit. He implied that he said, we expect people will charge it nightly. I don't know what that really means.
Isn't really an answer to the question.
Does that mean twice a day? I mean, yeah, we'll do it at night.
That is at least the bare minimum of what you can expect from a wearable. So long as you can get through, as long as the manufacturer is not expecting you to carry a charger or find an outlet sometime around 10 p.m., and so long as they're also cognizant of the fact that a lot of people get dressed and leave for work at 6:30 in the morning and maybe have dinner after work and don't come back until 10:30 or 11, that's okay. This has not been off my wrist since I first put it on about a month ago. And you're just in the habit of you take it off, you put it on the nightstand. It's just that the nightstand is also a wireless charger, and when you pick it up, it's charged up again. I don't mind that. That's not a pain point. Yeah.
Pebble Watch people will go, we go 2 weeks or whatever. But Jerson, you wear Android but we're both wearing the Moto 360. Yeah, we charge it every night, but I charge my phone every night. It's just.
And also, it's just built into how you use.
And a day and a half is not good because
then you end up charging it in the middle of the next day.
You charge it every night.
I mean, you're sleeping. Come on, just charge it while you sleep.
Charge it when you sleep.
And
Full
companies
when you
like
wake up.
Dodo are making some beautiful charging stands already for the Apple Watch. We're
Really?
offering them already. Yeah.
Does it have wireless charging? Or no, or is it pogo
Yes.
pins? It does have wireless charging.
Yeah, it's a MagSafe wireless combination. So it magnetically attaches and then it charges inductively.
Yeah, you kind of, even with Qi charging, you kind of want it to into place because positioning is so important.
I disagree.
Really?
I think what makes the Moto 360's charging stand work is that it is as close to the experience of simply taking off my watch and putting it on the nightstand as possible. I don't have to reach over to the nightstand, get out a cable, make sure that MagSafe connects to it, and then take it with this cable and put it right back on the thing to make sure the cable connected to the charger doesn't pull the watch off the nightstand. It is just this simple little plastic little cup that just holds the thing. And so I don't know.
It also turns it into a little mini clock.
Its incentive is that it turns it into a great bedside clock. So you have even more reason to charge it every single night because you want your clock there while you sleep.
So I mean, I think that a charging stand is going to be, even if it has to be third party, is going to be highly desirable because you have this thing flat staring up at the ceiling attached to a cable. It's not as, if this is truly a beautiful watch, a beautiful thing, you want, maybe when you wake up at 2:31 in the morning because you fell asleep while watching Letterman, you want to find out what time it is before you feel that, oh my God, I got to go back to work now.
I hate it when that happens.
Rene, I have not heard anything specifically about the role of the magnet. Is the magnet just to line it up, or is the presence of the magnet signify that it is time to go charging? Could they do if a molded in holder that just simply by virtue of the fact you've dropped it into this lines up the right wireless charging connectors to make it work?
I'm sure they could do that.
Yeah, I don't know. They, as far as I remember them saying, it was just for alignment purposes, the magnet.
Yeah, that was my understanding.
I think we'll have to wait till it's torn down to.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that there will be a Moto 360 style thing that you just drop your watch into.
That would be ideal. There's going to be so many people who are going to pick this largely because of how beautiful the styling is that they're not going to be willing to accept, hey, look, I just clicked a wire to the back of this and threw it on my nightstand. They're going to want just like at the turn of the, just like for antique stores, you can find like pocket watch stands from like the 1800s, 1900s, where it turns into a beautiful desk clock or mantle clock when you're not like carrying it around. So I think if you know how to sculpt a really nice cherub or something, or from your 3D printer, I think that you're going to want to start working on your 3D printed Apple Watch nightstand for it.
All right, I'm mad. AT&T, thank you very much, has decided to thwart the very elegant and beautiful plan Apple had. When you buy an iPad that has LTE built into it, the SIM is not, if the SIM that comes with it is not dedicated to any carrier, and you can, on the screen, sign up with AT&T, T-Mobile, or Sprint. Verizon's not participating, and use their service. And the way Apple, I think, intended it, and the way it works at T-Mobile and so far at Sprint is next month you can change carrier, and the month after that. AT&T, in fact, they actually announced it on the screen, which is good, I guess, locks it to AT&T the minute you sign up for AT&T service. Now, of course, you could get a new SIM from Apple.
How much does a new SIM cost?
Apple usually just gives them to you.
Yeah, it shouldn't cost anything.
Because they keep on talking about everything I've read says if you purchase a new one, I'm like, how much is that? I didn't know that they were selling them.
Yeah, I was trying to figure this out too because I'm interested to see how they managed to isolate the carrier lock to the SIM and not the device.
The very fact that there is a dialog box that pops up that says we're now going to lock this tells me Apple planned for this, right?
It also
they probably had to deal with it.
Right.
It's almost like battery shaming. If there's no bigger way to make AT&T look like a bunch of jerks than, AT&T, well, you do realize that unlike with Sprint and T-Mobile, you will not be able to change back for arbitrary reasons that have nothing to do with anything that Apple has put into the limitations of this product.
John Ledger, the CEO of T-Mobile, had a lot of fun with this, of course, because T-Mobile does not lock it down. And I think he went on a 20-tweet spree.
Amazing.
But it's just marketing. You're going to have to get a new SIM. At least you can put a new SIM in there. It's not a big deal. Next time you're at an Apple store, get 3 or 4.
It's just annoying. It's one more annoyance in a life.
It's AT&T.
One less. Yeah.
It's like, guys, what's clear? They don't care what we think. Doesn't matter.
Again,
and I think that this also relates back to the whole Apple Pay thing. Is just that it's just they're thinking about what they want, and not what the consumer wants at all.
It's a very clear message that, yes, you don't matter. As a customer, you matters. You're secondary to profit. And that's sad.
Some people in the chat room are saying $5, but it might vary depending on whether they want to be nice to you at an individual store.
The Genius has
does that mean
leeway.
So that means if you're traveling, you go overseas, you now can't because you're locked to AT&T. So
before you go overseas, well, it's right as of now. It's only in the UK. It's EE, but I presume other carriers will line up. But yeah, if you go to London with your iPad, you have to get another SIM before you go.
They shouldn't fear you leaving them. They should want you to. They should look at it as an opportunity to bring you to them because they're so awesome.
Keep them by being customer centric, not by locking them, not with a chastity belt.
Well, and I have to admit that my new iPhone, I finally got it. I was way behind you guys, but I got the iPhone. I like the big one. It took me a little while to like it. It was kind of I hated it for the first week and a half.
Did you get both to see what you wanted?
No, I've been looking at other people's 6 and I got the 6 Plus and I have to admit that I spent the first week and a half going, this was the dumbest thing I've ever done. It's way too big. I can't believe this. And then now I keep on going. But I now picked up somebody else's 6 and I was like, oh, this is really small. I don't really know what to do with it.
Pick up
now.
a 5S, Alex. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
so
postage stamp.
Yeah. So the regular one. Yeah, the 5S is like I don't even know. It's not even. I'm like, how am I supposed to look at this? It's so small. I need bifocals. But what I've noticed is, so I got T-Mobile specifically because of Wi-Fi calling, and I just wanted it unlocked. And the problem is, of course, T-Mobile's coverage, at least where I am, a lot of the time doesn't seem to be as good. And where it is good, it's great because not a lot of people.
No one else is using it. Yeah.
But the good match, what I have found is to be a good match is is you get a Verizon MiFi with the XLTE. And then you have your phone, your T-Mobile phone. The T-Mobile phone generally works pretty well, but if you need any kind of matchup, those work really well together. Just in case you're wondering. So Verizon's not participating, but in some ways you can have them participate just by.
I think the FCC mandated they could not lock their SIM slot on the Verizon iPhone. So that's what I have for my iPhone 6. And yes, I used it in England. It was great. I put in a T-Mobile SIM because they have free international 2G, and used it great. It's slow. I mean, 2G is not great, but it worked. Sorry, Rene, didn't mean to bonk you. Let's take a break. Anything else? We're gonna go to the picks of the week. So, any other stories that we should have covered that we didn't leave anything out? I'd like to give you guys a chance to bring up any hot button topics.
Nope. Filled with white hot jealousy about your 5K displays, but I'm dealing.
This Timescapes looks so good on this. I want to get the 4K version now.
You can plug a 4K display into the 5K iMac, Leo, then you can have 9K.
Can you?
Yep.
Over the Thunderbolt?
Yep.
Well, I have the 4K display. So, golly, I'm getting closer and closer just trading in the Mac Pro. What can I get for a base model Mac Pro?
John Syracuse has a standing offer of $5 to you or Mark Vermont or anyone else.
Thanks, John. Great deal. I use all the carriers, and T-Mobile and Petaluma is great.
It is
because nobody
uses. It's not as good in Pittsburgh. Yeah, exactly. No, where it is good, when you have good coverage with T-Mobile, it's incredible. It's super fast. It's like 25 megs up and down. Yeah. It's great. It's just not great everywhere.
This is the international Note 4, so it can't get LTE here in the States. But HSPA Plus, which is the best it could do at T-Mobile, is still 20 megabits. So I'm happy. Mm-hmm. I don't care. How fast do you need to go? Our show today brought to you by Personal Capital. What a great idea. I know you're young. You're never going to have to retire. Death is a distant, distant foe. Except it's not. Take it from an old man. You get here faster than you think. Plan for your future, kids. Start thinking about your retirement. And the best way to do it is to do it with full knowledge of what you're up to with Personal Capital. Personal Capital was created because, there are a couple of things that are getting in the way of you really doing your retirement right. One is, it's just hard to keep track of investments, checking accounts, savings, assets. So Personal Capital, first thing it does is it collates that all into a single dashboard on your computer, on your iPad, on your phone, that you could just see how everything's doing. And they even have a Google Android Wear app, so you can see it on your watch, which is pretty wild. Then the next thing is they will tell you how, if you're making, any errors If you've not balanced your 401k right for your age, if you're overpaying in fees, how to reduce those fees, get tailored advice. They've got calculators, all the stuff you need, and it's free. And so you can be frugal and still use Personal Capital. I want you to visit personalcapital.com/MacBreak. It'll just take you a few minutes to sign up, but the benefits will last a lifetime. I've been very happy with just knowing awareness, mindfulness about what you're doing is a huge step forward. The investment checkup, really useful. I love it. Personalcapital.com/MacBreak. There's no reason not to do it. It's free. Sign up today. You're going to get great value out of it. Personalcapital.com/MacBreak. My pick is the 5K iMac. Yours? Man, I am so...
Seconded.
I'm kind of sad I bought the Mac Pro now. And, I spent a lot because I got a Mac Pro and a 30K display and that little big disc, the terabyte SSD. I'm probably close to... I don't even want to think about it.
You did it for the listeners, Leo, the viewers.
Yeah, but now I want to buy the 5K for the viewers.
The viewers deserve it, Leo.
The viewers deserve it. That's right. Andy Ihnatko, your pick of the week, sir.
Mine is a pretty obvious pick from last week. It's Pixelmator for iPad.
Oh, yeah?
It is. We were talking earlier about why, I wonder why there's such a huge processing bump and app bump in Pixelmator, in the new iPads now. And I think that it's really to enable this new high quality set of apps. It really is the temptation is to call it like Photoshop for the iPad. It isn't because
does it do layers?
It does. It does layers. It actually imports Photoshop. It doesn't do things like 16-bit editing, but it can do some really pretty sophisticated things. Like if I decide that this image is a little bit too busy with this picture in it, it has effects where you can just
look at that.
Do editing. Like I can just select this and then wait. Then the progress bar. This will take about 10 seconds, but eventually 3, 2, 1,
actually disappear
boom, and the picture is gone. And you can do really cool just image editing effects, but that's just for editing photos. You can also do stuff for you can also do lots of cool stuff for just creating art and preparing stuff for. So I'm going to replace that picture with this photo that I took because I should have an image in the Chicago Art Institute, and there we go there. So I mean, you really can do a lot of really cool stuff with it. It really goes beyond all other image editing apps that I've ever seen for the iPad, which tend to be, hey, look how good we are at doing brushes. Hey, look how good we are at pushing sliders around to change photos. This can be a really good art program for drawing freehand art. This can be really good for annotating and fixing photos and adding caption text and arrows and diagrams because you're going to be putting this into a presentation on the iPad later on. It's good for it's not even basic photo editing, but for finished photo editing. And it's also got a lot of nice support for future stuff. It has built-in support for Bluetooth styluses. I'm sorry I'm not giving you a more complete demo because I haven't used it enough that I can easily hey, look, and now Balzac is got a cloud around him.
So this is your picture. This isn't some canned demo that Pixelmator came with.
There's a picture I took a while back.
That's amazing.
And
that's not amazing, but
well, see, I'm carrying the graffiti motif. It's like the Chicago Art Institute has been pictured by Banksy. Hey, look, cool. I'm Banksy. This picture is now worth $500,000. So I'm not giving a great upside down demonstration right now, but it's for $5 you have one app that will be your really great photo editor. It will be your great image processor. I mean, I was giving a presentation at a Comic-Con a couple of months ago, and I needed to prepare a title slide, but I did not have certain information until I actually arrived there, and so I had to do this sort of half-hearted. I took a screenshot of an image I wanted to use and then put it into Keynote just so I can add some text to it, so I could the data that I wanted to put onto it, because I didn't want to bring my laptop with me just so I can add text to a slide and make it look good. This would have been the perfect solution because it really is the answer to almost every image problem or every image opportunity that you have on the iPad. The only bad thing I can say about it, apart from the fact that it doesn't do 16-bit image editing, which would have been really killer because that's where a lot of the potential of enhancing a photo really is, the fact that it's got more headroom in it. I'm actually going to complain a little bit that it costs $5. I'm all for pricing, allowing more people to get access to an app, but this is way, way too little money for an app of this sort of power. And I really would have liked if it had been $10 or even $20, because I'm sort of fearing that we're teaching people that they should not expect to pay any decent amount of money for actual apps anymore. And so I think that when a beautiful app like this costs $5, it becomes that much more difficult for another developer to charge what their app is worth. So it's not enough that I would seriously complain about it. But if I'm looking for something to say about it, I would say that I would happily pay an extra $5 or $10 for it. But otherwise, man, you often hear me talk about apps that I love not only for what they are, but for the fact that you've got a lot of storage space on this iPad. You may as well fill it with apps so that at the time when you are in need of a solution, that solution is already there, that you don't have to sort of remember, didn't Andy Ihnatko recommend this really great image editing app? Okay, well, that'd be great, but now I don't have access to Wi-Fi, and it's a 100 megabyte download, and I can't do it over LTE, and it would cost me more. So now I'm basically kind of screwed right now. $5, go get it right now, put it in there, you start playing with it right away, and you'll have a good time with it. And then at some point in the future, it will probably save your life. Obviously more fun if you have a stylus handy, or that you can play with it.
Which one is that? That's a nice one.
That is from
Crayola.
No,
the crayon company.
Oh god, it looks like the same company.
Crayon.
It's the same company that does the Glyph iPhone stand.
It was
I think they call it the Rocket.
Is it the Cosmonaut?
Studio Neat. Yeah, it's called the Cosmonaut. It's from Studio Neat. You can studioneat.com. I like it because I didn't really start sketching and drawing again on a regular basis until until Paper and other really good drawing apps happened for this. And now when I travel, I've got this with me, and if I'm in a museum where I can't take a picture, I will sit down and draw with it. And this is a great app to have for that sort of thing. So let's make it. So we'll make this a double recommendation. I like this because it's not an interactive stylus, so you don't have to Bluetooth pair it, you don't have to put batteries in it, but it's very comfortable to hold on to. It's very squishy at the tip. And it's better than just using your fingers.
Skvishy.
Squishy.
Squish.
Squish, 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 squish.
You're doing that on the new iPad, right? Is it worth doing if you don't have the new iPad?
It really shines on the new iPad. I have used it, believe it or not, on an iPad 3, and it is usable.
Oh, really?
You can definitely edit stuff with the difference. Yeah, and also, I mean, you saw how long it took to remove that picture from the background. That would have been you got enough time to take out your iPhone and check your mail. It's not prohibitive, but this is definitely something that benefits from the new iPad, new processor. On the last year's iPad Air, perfectly usable. You definitely see the difference between that and the iPad 2, Air 2, but it's still perfectly usable last year. Again, if you've got an iPad 3 or an iPad 2, $5, how can you go wrong? But there are probably older apps that don't do quite as much that might be a little bit more responsive. Paper works great even on the iPad 3, but this, if you got the good hardware, use the good. Not to say that Paper isn't good, but it doesn't make the same sort of demands that Pixelmator makes.
Is Pixelmator, for like using a Wacom, the bamboo pen, is it pressure sensitive? Do you know?
If it does support Bluetooth styluses, so if you have a pressure sensitive Bluetooth stylus, it will work with that. I have not tested it with a wide range of these devices, but it does say specifically that yes, this works perfectly fine with pressure sensitive styluses. It will not be, I will promise you, it will not be as good an experience as on like a Microsoft Surface tablet that has a built-in digitizer for pen. That's one thing that if we make out a list of everything that we would expect to see in an iPad Air Pro, say, boy, I really hope they put in a Surface Pen digitizer on this, because they're leaving money off the table by not making this the best tool for doing handmade digital art that's on the market today, and that it does not have that distinction right now, and I wish it did.
Very good. Pixelmator. And the Cosmonaut. It's Skvishy.
Skvishy. The Skvishy pen.
Alex Lindsay, your pick.
So I make a lot of labels. In case you're wondering, I've been making labels since I was like 10 with remember the little rotary thing?
Yeah.
If you know what I mean.
You remember the rotary thing that you had that you would like turn it and
yeah,
then
the
click
Dymo labeler, yeah.
So I started back then, with Dymo labeler, doing it for my grandfather, and I finally found maybe not the holy grail, but finally what I've been waiting for. Because we have lots of labelers downstairs, as you probably have seen. I have every house I go to. I'm always labeling things to make sure I know what's going on. So I got this. I just got this Epson. This is the LW600P, and what this does that I
looks like a hard drive. It doesn't look like a labeler.
Yeah, and what's cool about this, if you look at it, it doesn't have any keys on it. Well, how would that work if it doesn't have any keys on it? Now it does take batteries, by the way. If you pop this little bottom out, it's battery operated, so you can take it on the road. But it doesn't take any batteries. Now you can, of course, plug it into your computer. There's a driver, a cool little app that lets you print stuff out, and you can insert your QR code. But more importantly, you have this.
Oh, you can do it with your phone.
So what happens here is actually you can in this case with this it's Bluetooth enabled. So you basically just pair up your iPhone or iPad or whatever to the labeler. And then you've got this great, I can say I want an original label, and I just started working on one. So then I can type it in there. I can say, what text. Now, the reason that one's so small like that is because I was printing, these are cable labels, so that I can, mark. Labels are kind of like, they're the dog, they're to humans what pee is to dogs, so, I just pee on everything. So anyway, so anyway. So this is my way of peeing on my cables, which is that I'm gonna wrap my cables with my name on them. Wow. This is how I pee on my phone. Is just just print these out. Yeah. But the big thing is it's always been this clunky thing that you can't figure out. And it's got all these keys and everything else. So anyway, so the fact that I can now do it with my iPhone and I can just very quickly pop things in that I want to label, and I got this little box.
Can you put images on it?
You can they're very simple images. The resolution is pretty rudimentary, so it's back to like Mac, 32 by 32 kind of, it's not, maybe not quite that low, but it's still pretty low resolution. But you can put little images on it. You can put QR codes on it, serial number, serial numbers, barcodes, and a lot of that stuff's all built in.
Yeah.
And so it's just so much easier after all these years of going from all the different things. I still miss the old little circular dial, I will admit, but this is so fast. And of course, because it's Epson, these cartridges are easy to get, and there's lots of different people that make them. It's just that this has been the easiest one to actually use, rather than dealing with all. It's a quantum leap forward as far as speed goes. Partially because I spend a lot more time typing on my iPhone than I type on a label maker. So anyway, it's just so I'm pretty happy with it. Once again, it's the LW600P. Epson.
$107 on Amazon.
And that's where I bought it.
And I'm so close to clicking that.
It is so.
It looks pretty cool.
I wanted to make sure that I just got it recently, and I before I had it sitting around. I wanted to make sure I played with it for a while. It's a little wonky, like for these little label ones, you have to kind of think around the box to get it to print on the top a little bit. It doesn't do that automatically. It doesn't have a.
Is that the cable wrap label?
Yeah, this is the cable wrap. So this is. So you can put that on a cable now, and it's.
That's kind of cool. I would love to label my cables.
And the thing is that for big shows, we'll actually label them, like this is, or for kits that you're using all the time, we'll label like this cable is going to this. The big thing is just labeling all of your power supplies, because I buy a lot of stuff with power supplies, and there should be
no
a law,
idea
by
what
the
they
way,
go to.
About
yes,
if you're if it's coming from a Lilliput or AJA is really good about it, but there's other people that just send these generic wall warts and you can't remember what they are. So one of the first things that we do is label, of course, the power, to make sure we know where that actually belongs. So, but once you start labeling things, it does become an addiction. I have admitted that I have a problem, but I'm not willing to give it up yet.
I have a box of silver pens that I keep on hand specifically so that I can label every wall wart, because it's like my life changed for the better years ago when I realized that, okay, if it's more wattage, that's okay. If it's more voltage, that's not okay.
Right.
And when these things are like just molded in shallow plastic with no paint on them, and you're like crawling behind the TV hutch to find out which is the one for the Roku and which is like the 17-volt one that needs to go to something else. That's a bad.
And once you start labeling them, it completely changes your life when you have everything.
This is like something that a responsible grown-up would do. Someone who can connect consequences with actions. I could pretend to be one of those people.
It's crazy. It's
Crazy. Mr. Rene Ritchie, your pick of the week.
I want to just second Andy's iPad Air.
You like Pixel Mailer?
Well, yeah, but absolutely. But the iPad Air 2 by itself is just phenomenal. The display looks like the iMac display. You couldn't think that it would be better than an iPad Air, but it really is because it's laminated now. It's got a new anti-glare coating that really works. It's got a new gold option, so you can completely bling it out.
If you have an iPad Air, should you get one?
No, I mean, if you really want gold, if you didn't get 64 or 128 gigabytes and you're really upset about that, they're $100 cheaper than they were last year. Or if you were into high-end graphics, and high-end graphics is really important to you, the AAX chipset is really good. But it's like the iMac. You're shopping for a Ferrari if you already have the iPad Air 1. But
on the other hand, if you have a 3 or a 2,
yes.
It would be worthwhile upgrade.
To clarify, you're almost always going to get a no answer from me if you're asking me if I have something that's 1 year old, should I upgrade it right now?
Right.
Unless the thing is has an unexploded airbag that's going to go off because of manufacturing defect.
Right.
Hold on to it for at least another year. But yeah, I'm sorry.
Absolutely. You can hold them for a couple of years. My picks of the week, one is BB Edit 11 from Bare Bones Software. I love BB Edit. I write in it every day. Almost every article I do on iMore is written in BB Edit. This is the version that is no longer on the Mac App Store. They're doing a little bit of gymnastics to help people who bought the Mac App Store version cross over. But it is the... I believe it started 100 years ago, or in 1812 or something. And Rich has just been updating it every year since then. And it's got new text syntax highlighting. It's got new text extraction. It's got a bevy of really good features. I'm not too proud to admit that I use maybe 1% of them. But I just love that I can write in plain text, and I can convert it to Markdown. I can just do anything that I wrote my review for iOS 8 was 21,000 words, and Google Docs just couldn't handle it. It just kept freezing. BB Edit handled it like a champ. It had no problem whatsoever, and it's never once lost my work. If anything goes wrong, it comes right back right where I left off, and that to me is just invaluable. To be able to do it quickly, not lose time, and to be safe in what I'm doing makes it absolutely worth the price. And speaking of paying for good software, I would buy it twice if I could, because I use it all day, every day.
Yeah. I mean, BB Edit is only slightly younger than ASCII. That's about as far as you can go.
Should point out that Rich, this is how he makes a living. He never offers a free upgrade. So if you bought 10, the upgrade is $30. If you have never purchased before, it's $50. Yeah. If you have a Mac App Store version, it's $30 as well.
Yeah,
but also it's one of the most consistently worked on and updated and maintained apps I think you can possibly find.
It's worth it.
Rarely a month goes by when I don't get some sort of indication that a dot upgrade is coming, and never to fix a catastrophic problem, but to fix something that is amazingly subtle, that only someone who relies on BB Edit to work on 20 hours a day, 7 days a week for months would ever uncover, and yet it's important enough that Bare Bones felt the need to fix it. It's if you're just like Rene and me, you just want a text editor that writes text, it's great. If you're writing code, it's great because it'll do highlight marking for all your context. You can change color schemes now for how things work. And just Rich, who's a very good friend of mine, gave me a demonstration of it personally last week when in the context of a PR thing as opposed to a context of a just hanging out thing. And boy, when you see how a blade can be used by a chef who's also a master knifesmith, you appreciate for what this knife can do, because he was doing things. And now here's like 20 years worth of with BB Edit the feature requests. And how do I take it to just all the requests for over 20 years that were just mentioned Touch ID? Well, I just do this search, and now because of this new feature we put in, now it's a simple list like that. But now I want to just select this one column of it. So now if I simply start typing, it's like, okay, you just did what would have taken me about 3 days of manual labor and about 14 keystrokes. And even if you never touch that power yourself, it is so wonderful to know that that power is lurking in this app that all you use for is to write 2,000-word columns, because one time a year you will feel, gee, I really got to need to do this transmogrification on this file. What a pain in the butt that's going to be. And then you realize, oh, wait a minute, doesn't BB Edit have amazing features for doing anything you can do with text? And will take you, as a newbie, it'll take you 2 hours to learn the one simple search and replace string that will do it for you. But that 2 hours will pay off in 10 minutes worth of effort to do something that would take you 3 days. Highest recommendation. I keep threatening myself that I should really go and create a hall of fame of stuff that every time that I set up a brand new Mac that I personally own, there are always 6 apps that even before I think I'm going to need them, just come to mind that I got to download Chrome, I got to download this, that, the other, and BB Edit for 10 years has always been one of those things. Cannot recommend it highly enough.
And we love Rich, and we just want to support him too.
He is a good one, and he's
one of the good ones.
You know that if the one time that I would, he's the one person that if he ever decided to say that, you know what, I'm totally done with developing for the Mac. I've had it. This is not a good system anymore. I can't do the things I want to do. That's the point at which I would say maybe I should stop using the Mac, because not only does he know everything there is to know, not only has he been here since the first time Apple was doomed, but also people were talking about his Singleton talk, in which he gave his presentation was all about his decision to pull out of the Mac App Store, and it wasn't him ripping off his hat and throwing it to the ground and yelling about how, oh, this is all BS. It's calm, rational. Here are the reasons why we made this decision for ourselves. You can make other decisions for yourself, but here's why we went through this. Again, he is finest kind, absolutely.
I got you all beat. Those picks suck.
I had one more, Lee. I just wanted to...
Okay, one more from... Why is it every time at the very end of the show, Renee's Skype goes away?
I turned off everything else. It's horrible.
It's so weird. It was great right to the end. The same thing happened last week.
Weird.
Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
So I just wanted to, Vicky Murley, who was on the original Safari team, the original iPhone team, and was Apple's web technologies evangelist for many years. She put out her second book, which is CSS Animation, and it's terrific. A lot of the CSS stuff is based on Apple's technology, like all the animation stuff, the transition stuff. And if you've always been curious about how to do CSS animation, her book is a great starting point. It's available for iPad and for iMac. It's at cssanimationbook.com, and it's really good.
By the way, we thanks to Jeff Needles, we got the 2560 resolution version of Timescape now. So it's still, I mean, it looked great either way, and it's still not the full resolution of this display. That's the amazing thing. It's really amazing. My app, I'm telling you, you guys, okay, you got good picks, but you don't have Taco Bell. Taco Bell today shipped an app that you can order from Taco Bell directly from your iPhone. Actually, they have an Android version as well. It looks up your local Taco Bell. What are you laughing at?
I'm just thinking what the most appropriate app possible for an app for a device that people usually use on the toilet. That's all I'm saying.
There you go.
And now I'll mute my microphone because before I
can have My Bell. In the future, your most ordered items will appear here. Engine starters. I have got breakfast. I've got combos. Huh?
Do they deliver, or do you have to go pick it up?
Oh, gosh, I would be nice if they would just show up at your door, but no, you have to go get it, unfortunately. Oh, I know, but it's just down the street, so that's the good news. Welcome, amigo. It is not an iPod app.
Taco Bell, I don't mean to insult your.
So you can be sitting in your favorite place with your iPad, and then you can order something to get you back there as fast as possible.
It's basically about throughput, maximizing throughput. All right, I just couldn't resist. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now at the end of our program for the day, and I do thank you so much, Mr. Alex Lindsay, for joining us all the way from Pittsburgh and your specially designed drywall room.
I'll be somewhere else next week, but I do have a good connection.
You traveling?
Yeah, I think I'm going to be in D.C. or Frederick, Maryland. I'm not sure, one or the other.
All right, that's cool. That's cool. We appreciate it. Pixelcore.com, at Alex Lindsay. He's always got good stuff going on. Add him on the Twitter, and that's the best place to find out what's going up on the site.
And we have the next Final Cut user group is November 11th. People have been asking us, so we should. So I'll have the link next week.
Good.
But go ahead and put it on your schedule. November 11th. Yeah. We're gonna have some fun. It'll be in the afternoon. We've kind of moved it earlier so that our folks in the UK can watch live.
11/11.
Yes.
Rene Ritchie, he's from Montreal, and imore.com. A really good site lately. You've been just, as I said it last week, but you're knocking it out of the park with great stuff. And, of course, the podcast, let's not forget. You'll find it all at imore.com. The pixelated Rene Ritchie. This is not, I wouldn't say this is a 5K version of Rene Ritchie. This might be a 5-bit version.
The original Mac version.
Thank you, Rene. And Annie Ihnatko at the Chicago Sun-Times joins us every week, too. We're great to have you, as always, CWOB.com, at Ihnatko, Ihnatko on the Twitter. We do this show. We're changing, we're setting the clocks back an hour on Sunday in this area of the world. So that means we will be an hour later for you if you are in some other area of the world.
Or Arizona.
Or not.
Arizona.
Or Arizona. I'll leave it to you to do the calculations. So it's 11. It will stay at 11 a.m. Pacific. It'll stay at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, but it'll be 1900 UTC starting next week. Not 1800, but 1900 UTC starting next week. Make a note of that. Do the local calculations. Watch live if you can. And if you can't figure it out, don't worry, because on-demand version's always available after the fact at twit.tv/MBW. Or you can just subscribe at Stitcher and use our podcast apps, download it ahead of time on iTunes, whatever it is that you do to get podcasts, you will find MacBreak Weekly there. Thanks for joining us. Now back to work, because break time is over. Bye, everybody.